Hey friends, it is day 24 of my challenge to write on my book at least a half hour a day as part of creative self-care. And it's been a rough week. Honestly, I didn't get all my writing done last night, so I'm doing twice as much writing or editing, reviewing. I'm in an editing, reviewing stage right now, so I'm doing twice as much today to make up for it. Just was feeling really under the weather, like I mentioned to you guys, and so having a hard time staying awake while I was doing the reading. But I'm like on page, let's see, 135, I think, or 132 of my novel. And, being that it's so extensive and it had been such a long time since I worked on it, I really needed to dive back into it. So, reading through it and just spending double the time today. So, sometimes it's just not perfect. So you do your best. So that's what that's about. I don't know. One of the things I'm thinking about, we were talking about scenes yesterday and what makes up a good scene, and that, that there's a conflict in each scene, that it drives the story forward. There's that hook. All of those things. And I came across a beginning of a chapter where my characters, two of the characters who are traveling to Savannah to help the heroine, have to travel a long distance. And you don't want it to be boring. Like we were saying, Alfred Hitchcock said, great fiction is life with the dull parts taken out. So I don't want to have a bunch of dull parts in there where there's riding horses across the country and nothing exciting happens. And I also don't want to get the story off track because we spent so much time or so many pages, putting in unneeded conflict for these characters. We want to get them into the fight, so to speak. So, it gets to be one of those transition scenes where, we're talking about the traveling in the past tense. So as I was reading through this section, I had written a lot of great reflections about it, but I noticed my opening paragraph is really lacking. So I'm going to go back and look at that today, and further down in the paragraphs, following the paragraphs, the following paragraphs, I should say, are a little more interesting. And sometimes what's really an easy fix when you have like a lackluster opening or a lackluster introduction to that action or transition is going down and looking at some of the other paragraphs you wrote as it started to flow, right? And taking a later paragraph and moving it to the beginning. I often find that that's a really great way to play with opening sentences, opening scenes, is when I first start them and I start writing them, because I like to write with the seat of my pants. So I'm a pantser, so to speak, and other people like to outline. Now, we talked about plot structure outline, but I developed my plot structure outline modeling that after that James Scott Bell suspension bridge theory. After I'd written the whole story, I went back and went, okay, do I have these elements? So when you do first start writing, sometimes, it's kind of in, what do they call it? Fits and stops, right? And then you get into a flow state and it just starts coming easier and easier. So sometimes your later paragraphs are your better paragraphs, and you could take one of those and move it up to the beginning, maybe make a couple little minor edits, and you have this great opening. So don't be afraid to look further down into your work and find the gems and rearrange them. Sometimes it's not so much that you need to rewrite it versus rearrange it. So I don't know. That's my little tip for today, my amateur tip for today. You're welcome. I hope you have a great night. Take it easy.